Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Patreon-sponsored review time again, and we've got an interesting little bit of forgotten history for us today. The Spirit 1987 TV movie. So, full confession time, I've never really read that much of The Spirit. If you're unfamiliar with the character, The Spirit is probably the most well-known character of the legendary Will Eisner. Eisner, while having done contract work to make superheroes, including the Superman ripoff Wonder Man for Blue Beetle publisher Victor Fox, wasn't really that interested in doing them, so when he was offered the chance to make a comic book insert for newspapers at the time that were competing with the medium, he wasn't really interested in making one. They wanted a superhero for themselves, one in a costume, and Eisner was like, yeah, sure, this domino mask, that's his costume. Boom. As such, while the character had some otherworldly elements to him that we'll talk about later, he's more of a pulp hero. Fisticuffs, no superpowers, and fighting gangland criminals and crime bosses. The Spirit would probably be a mostly forgotten character, one of the hundreds of forgettable heroes to come from the Golden Age, if not for the fact that Eisner himself was such a talented creator, and that he managed to retain ownership of the Spirit, allowing him to be revived again and again. Ironic, given the character's backstory. But why haven't I read much with him? Well, aside from the fact that there's, a ton of stuff out there that I've never read in comic history, it kinda comes back to my same deal with John Constantine. Denny Colt, aka The Spirit, is just a dude. The stories may be incredibly well told, same as Constantine's, but sometimes I need a hook to get me to start reading something. A character or story concept that intrigues me enough to pick something up. And hell, the simplicity is actually something of a benefit to the character. I did read the first issue of one of DC's attempts to revive the Spirit with Darwin Cook making it, wherein a reporter asks him why he just wears a domino mask, and he covers her eyes, asks her to describe him, and being just a dude means it's easier for him to be anonymous. Being just some white guy with brown hair and a domino mask makes it easier to keep his identity secret than if he had very distinct features. But we're not talking about the comics themselves, but movies! And I've technically reviewed a Spirit movie before. Yeah, back in 2010 when I was helping to invade a micronation, I also took some time to do a crossover with Film Brain and the Frank Miller written and directed version of the movie. Come to think of it, I don't think I've ever got an explanation why he did that. And hey, I haven't talked to him in forever, might as well call him up. Let's dust this thing off here. Hey, Film Brain!
Oh, hey, Linkara. Haven't actually talked to another reviewer through my camera in a while.
Yeah, weird, isn't it? Anyway, remember back in the day when we did that review of The Spirit?
Yeah?
Why did you lock me in the hotel room to do that?
Huh? Oh, yeah, Dr. Linksano paid me to do that for some reason.
What? Oh, yeah, that, it was just some complicated scheme I was doing while I was one of your villains. Come to think of it, even I don't remember what I was trying to accomplish with all that. Huh. Anyway, dude, a patron is having me do a review of the 1987 TV movie version of The Spirit, so wanted to know if you wanted any part of it.
Not really. I've kind of got my own thing going on here. Plus, I'm still kind of naffed off at you.
What? Why?
I heard you did that big mansion party in 2019 for everyone who'd been on the site, and Muggins here didn't get an invite.
Okay, one, that party ended up involving demons and ghosts and killer dolls and stuff.
Still would have been fun.
And two, I sent you an invite.
Oh, I got an invite, alright. For Stuart Ashens. Was he even ever on the site?
Yeah, for 5 minutes. But dude, I sent you an invite! I'm sorry you didn't get it, but I did send it!
Okay, fine. I believe you. I'm still not up for a crossover though, but thanks for thinking of me at least. And hey, enjoy the movie!
Will do. Sorry again about that. Does make me wonder what did happen to your invite then.
The hell's a Linkara? And why do they keep calling me Film Brain?
Anyway, this movie was in development hell for a long while, originally being optioned in 1975 for NBC. It was intended to be a pilot for a series, with Burt Reynolds even attached to play Denny Colt at the start, but it just kept never getting made. In the 80s, Brad Bird actually ended up trying to get an animated movie version of The Spirit made, even producing a pitch trailer to show to producers. Eventually, they secured a lot of support for the project, but it fell through because studios felt at the time that the only animated movies that were making money were toyetic stuff. In the mid-80s, the rights were reacquired by producer Paul Atop, who worked with Eisner to get the pilot movie going again, this time at ABC. Originally intending it to be a serious adaptation, when ABC mandated that Sam J. Jones play Denny Colt, the team decided to play it more satirically in the vein of the Adam West Batman series, and the Flash Gordon movie, of which Sam J. Jones played the title role there, too. So let's dig into the 1987 TV movie version of The Spirit, and see if we can tell why this didn't go to series.
Atop the fourth wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. What's with these awkward subjects? What's all this art so rubbish? To anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he is a man, punch, sporadically a grouch. Linkara, he has his own spaceship, but he's always on his couch. Linkara. A universe in flux, Linkara. This comic sucks, Linkara.
The movie begins with a brief 30-second intro of some decent action-y, kind of funky orchestral music over shots of comic art fading into real-life action sequences. I don't know if they're real panels turned into this or if they were made specifically for the intro sequence, but it isn't bad at all. We truly open with Denny Colt in a police car trying to get in touch with someone via dispatch but failing.
Don't tell me he's not there. He called me, patched me through, and get the ambulance on the way.
This movie's gonna be dead on arrival. Get me the producer. We need to be ready now, damn it! We see that the guy Denny is trying to reach has been attacked in his home by an unseen assailant, who rifles through papers and then sets the place on fire as Denny arrives.
Will?
Okay, next time I'll use the doorbell, jeez! Will stumbles out and we learn that he's a retired cop and didn't see the face of the guy who did this. However, the assailant took the manuscript for his memoirs, and said memoirs were only known about by one person according to him, a guy named Simon Teasdale. Will asks Denny to make whoever did this pay.
You always said a good cop was above revenge.
My boat.
He does get to say, "I changed my mind" right as he dies though, and you know what, fair. Will was clutching the title page of the manuscript. The Roxton Connection, Art Crime of the Century. I'll wait for the Chuck Tingle version. The page also established their relationship to each other, as the dedication says that Denny was the son that Will never had. The next day, there's a fundraising picnic for a museum or something being hosted by a woman named Pagel Roxton. Also attending the event are Police Commissioner Dolan and his daughter Ellen, played by Star Trek Deep Space Nine's Nana Visitor. Also nearby is a kid named Yubi who's selling stolen Walkmans to kids in wheelchairs. Yubi is based on the Spirit's sidekick from the early comics, a racist caricature named Ebony White. Yeah, things obviously got toned down over time and the character phased out eventually before some considerably less racist revivals in later reboots, and yet retaining the name for some reason. Honestly, it was probably the right call of the film to rename him if they were going to keep him around. Anyway, in a bit of hasty editing, we see a brief speech by Ellen and Pagel at the same time as Yubi's hustling and Denny chasing down and punching out a purse snatcher, who inexplicably tried to steal a purse 5 feet away from an event with heavy police presence and refusing to just run straight away from it, since Denny managed to nab him and punch him right into one of the lunch tables.
I just don't know how to thank you.
Well, that's my job, ma'am.
It's a good thing criminals are incredibly stupid, or else I couldn't do my job.
Jenny Colt.
Colt, huh? Looking for a filly?
Yes, in fact, I am actually a huge My Little Pony fan. Both women clearly want to jump his bones, and honestly, why not? Dude's built like a linebacker, and well, he was Flash Gordon, where indeed he played a football player. But he's only interested in talking to Ellen's father about Will's murder. Simon Teasdale is apparently the curator of the museum they're fundraising for, and Commissioner Dolan says that someone that powerful and influential should not just be dragged into a murder investigation. He needs to make an appointment. But Denny is determined to find his best friend's killer. Denny comes across Yubi selling the stolen tape players, but he points out that if he brings them in, he'll need to take away the tape players from all the blind or wheelchair-using kids he sold them to. Damn, and being a blind kid means you can't confiscate stolen things from them!
There is logic in what he says.
But yeah, Denny just lets him off with a warning, even telling the kid that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Which is why hell is such a terrible infrastructure. Use concrete, idiots! At the museum, as workers unpack a bunch of stuff, we meet Mr. Teasdale. And once again, I have a Star Trek connection here, though a smaller one. Teasdale is played by Daniel Davis, who most people probably know as Niles from The Nanny. But since I never watched The Nanny, to me he is forever the hologram of Professor Moriarty, who gained sentience and threatened to destroy the Enterprise on 2 occasions. But yeah, Denny goes to ask him some questions.
East armpit. Armpit.
Okay, I haven't mentioned it until now, but they've used that same joke 3 times in 5 minutes, and not a single time has been funny. Time to move on now.
Well, what would a murder case have to do with me?
That was going to be my next question.
What does this murder investigation have to do with you? Answer me, damn it! Denny explains that Will had been writing books about art theft and that he had apparently sent a letter to Teasdale about it, what with the book title specifically mentioning their museum. Teasdale denies receiving any letter and has security literally throw Denny out, which seems like an unwise move to do to a cop, but hey, rich and powerful and all. A teamster named Bruno comes out and tells Denny that he's right. Teasdale's up to no good, but says that they can't talk there, that they'll meet up at the pier later that night. Hello? Is anyone there? I came here in my t-shirt with a bullseye on it, and I didn't tell anyone I'd be here, and I didn't bring a gun, and I'm 2 days away from retirement. Yeah, as you can imagine, this was a trap, and Denny is shot by Bruno, falling into the water. My copy, unfortunately, does not have the original commercials, and that's fine. It's just I always like to riff on commercials when that opportunity comes up. It's part nostalgia, part historical curiosity of how stuff was presented at the time. Still, I could always look up commercials from the time if I really cared, like this one. Hey man, check out what just came out! Atop the Fourth Wall action figures! So much articulation! But look out, here comes Mecha-Kara! He's got a magic gun? Where'd he purchase that? He's adapted! Foolish fleshling, I will destroy you! It's 90s dude to the rescue! Your weapons can't hurt me! Eat this, Robo-Dweeb! Wait, are we the same person? No, I'm Mecha-You! Dudes! Can I play too? No way! Atop the Fourth Wall action figures, Wave 1, comes with everything you see here. But not, like, the background. That's not actually Comic-Con 1. That's a generic action figure playset background that we're using for this commercial. It doesn't actually... We can't sell that to you because it's not ours to sell. What we mean is we have swappable hands for, like, if you want to be, like, you know, left or right-handed and like, the mini gun and the magic gun. Those are the things that you see here that you can swap out. We can't do the Top Fourth Wall action figures, Wave 1, available at this address. Oh man, it's a good thing that the World Wide Web existed in 1987 and that the store page still exists so one could still get these Atop the Fourth Wall action figures. Atop the Fourth Wall also existed in 1987, 3 weeks before I was born. Later, Commissioner Dolan finds Denny's bloody badge on the pier. I guess the police summoned there by a concerned fish or something that overheard this go down. He blames himself for getting Denny killed.
I had help a couple of fellas known as Ennui and Laissez-Faire. Sound like foreigners.
Okay, in that guy's defense, that is a really weird and needlessly poetic way of saying I shouldn't have discouraged the investigation and helped him against the powerful rich guy. Meanwhile, on the set of a Universal horror movie already in progress, Yubi meets up with another kid who claims to have the latest Whitney Houston album fresh off a truck.
Oh, Whitney Houston, huh?
Wait, no, this is actually the latest Mike Love solo album. They hear a groan and spot a figure emerging from the ground.
Rise from your grave.
The other kid flees because, you know, zombie and all, but Yubi soon spots that it's Denny, who collapses in front of him. Wait, how quickly did they fish him out of the water and bury him? Like, has it been a few days? Because I presume they took his body to a hospital first, and then a morgue for an autopsy, and nobody noticed he was still alive? And even if this was rushed, nobody looked into the next of kin or where he wanted to be buried? Because I presume it wasn't this cemetery in a different city. Is this all still the same day? Yubi's wearing the same clothes as before, and the dialogue, while not clear, implies that it might still be the same day and all. Hell, Denny's still wearing the clothes he was wearing when he was shot. Did they just bury him in that? Did they not bury him at all, and he actually just somehow crawled out of the water and into a nearby cemetery, but fell into a position where he looked like he was digging out of a grave? Because the backdrop of the city behind the cemetery suggests this is like on a big hill, not near the ocean.
It just raises too many questions.
Yubi drags him into a crypt and tries to dress his wounds as best as he can, but clearly Denny needs a doctor. Smart enough to recognize the dangers with that, seeing as he was shot by a hired goon, Denny instead tells Yubi to bring a doctor to him, also telling Yubi that he needs to keep the fact that he's still alive a secret. In the comics, this is a bit different. Presumed dead, yes, but his survival was a result of chemicals in a mad scientist's lab that put him in suspended animation that only resembled death. Apparently they haven't even had his funeral yet because after a commercial break, Yubi and Denny witnessed the small service from the tomb. According to Commissioner Dolan, all his friends back at his town held a separate service there, figuring that without a body, no point's coming to the headstone. Ellen says a few parting words to the effect of, "You were a gentleman and I really wish I could have banged you."
You know, I think she's got the hots for you. Too bad you're dead.
I've been on the internet too long to presume that that would be a deal breaker for her. Denny explains to Yubi that since he's presumed dead, the criminals he's after will get sloppy and stop looking over their shoulders. Fair enough idea, but were they really that careful around you to begin with? You came in loudly announcing you were investigating Teasdale in a single scene, and then they decided to kill you before you could snoop around anymore. Fortunately for him, this crypt has a desk or something inside of it with a single domino mask just sitting there. I mentioned the Universal horror movies before, and now I just presume that this is where Dr. Pretorius hung out in Bride of Frankenstein, and the mask was just a weird sex thing he indulged in.
Well, what do you think?
I'll ditch the pants, too, for the full effect. What follows is a montage of Denny in the full spirit garb beating up criminals and some spinning newspapers doing their thing while the theme song plays. It almost feels like it's meant to be a revised version of the theme's visuals if the movie had gone to series. Oh my god, you guys, City Bond issue nears approval! Okay, this newspaper doesn't even make sense. You have the huge-ass Spirit New Crime Buster headline, but like none of the stories we see are connected to that. Campaign finance reform. It's scary. I know, right? Just imagine a world where money couldn't buy elections. Frightening, isn't it? I noticed they didn't really explain his name here. He's just already known as the Spirit. Originally, Everett M. Arnold, the publisher of Quality Comics, had wanted a character called The Ghost, and Eisner thought it wasn't any good, but Arnold suggested The Spirit or something like it. And Eisner was just like, I don't actually care about the name, so yeah, The Spirit. The stuff of legends right there. In universe, the idea is that criminals can't fight back against a ghost or spirit, which he technically is, what with being dead and all. Honestly, feels like a bit of a stretch, but hey, as said, Eisner didn't actually care about the name. The Spirit meets with Commissioner Dolan in his office, who at first is reluctant to accept his help, thinking he might just be another criminal trying to knock out the competition. My god! I didn't recognize you until I saw your eyebrows! Yeah, this really highlights why Sam Jones was miscast. He's not terrible, but as a physical presence, he's just instantly recognizable, and the effect of the anonymity from the domino mask does not work. And this was almost 10 years after the original Christopher Reeve Superman movie, where we saw an actor alter his posture and demeanor in a way that made it believable that you wouldn't necessarily recognize him in his dual identity right away. So it's not impossible to do it. Anyway, Denny explains that he needs to remain dead, since otherwise all the criminals brought in would have to face that pesky old due process and bureaucracy that's kind of important to establish whether someone is actually guilty of a crime or not. I don't know how them being taken by a vigilante circumvents that, but apparently it does. Anyway, the Spirit has come to Dolan to inform him of what he's up to and that he's still investigating Teasdale. Dolan looked into it himself after Denny's death, but wasn't able to find any crime around the museum. The Spirit's theory is that it's about forgery, that maybe some or all of the museum exhibits are fake. As such, he's looking into metal casting plants that might have made molds of them. Ellen then walks in. Man, they take it seriously around here if you don't have an appointment. While he's knocked out, she tries to remove his mask to identify him. Yet again, the power of the mask at play, even when she notices the broad shoulders. But her dad stops her. After he recovers, she asks why he can't remove the mask.
Criminals fear the unknown. A man with no name is a man without restraints.
So Clint Eastwood is the Spirit? They compare it to the Lone Ranger, a comparison Denny himself had made.
Maybe this mask was a mistake.
Really? Because it seems to be working out shockingly well. After another commercial break, Ellen is hanging out with Pagel in a hot tub where they end up talking about how hot the Spirit is, and then either attempted drowning or lesbianism ensues. You make the call. That night at a not very well-established building that I guess turns out to be a metal factory, the spirit breaks in via the women's restroom and runs into Ellen. I guess she does work for Pagel and not the police station, and the spirit realizes, based on their conversation, that this might be where the forgeries are being made. A comedy bit ensues where he tries to get Ellen out of the building via the window and just ends up ripping her dress, and then she reminds him that she could have just left out the front door since she came here for legitimate business.
You know you're right.
It's that keen intellect that shows how you got shot, dude. This is indeed where the forgeries are being made and the spirit attacks, leading to an okay fight scene that ends with the spirit knocked out. Despite the goons earlier saying they should take off his mask, they apparently forget about that as they tie up the spirit and prepare to let him fall into some acid while they go off to see a Rick James concert. Yes, seriously. Yeah, apparently from a production standpoint, they wanted the movie to exist in a quasi-non-specific time period. Could be the 40s, could be the modern day. Except they keep making pop culture and technology references that slot it directly into 1987, so... Ellen, soon realizing that something is wrong, returns to the plant and sees the predicament. She gets him free, and with the help of a cab driver, they get him into the cab to safety. While unconscious, she considers taking off his mask.
Ellen, that mask must never come off.
Ellen, you must go to the Dagobah system.
A man with no name is a man without restraint.
Hey, if there are gonna be 3 of you back there, I'm up in the fair! They bring the spirit to the Dolan home, where we have a little more comedy bits with the maid, but the real point is that Ellen disbelieves that Simon is involved, and a slip of the tongue by the spirit makes her suspicious of his true identity, referencing a line that Denny had said earlier.
I don't remember Batman making Robin do no homework.
Well, that's why today Robin is a sad and broken figure.
Not really, they still had another year before Jason Todd died. Danny disguises himself in a terrible fake beard and glasses, though honestly it's a better disguise than the Domino mask, and meets with Pagel and Teasdale, claiming to be a scholar who's getting a copy of Will's manuscript. Turns out Simon isn't responsible for the forgeries, but rather Pagel, who is Bruno's girlfriend, and she's behind the operation, selling the authentic antiquities for a profit. It apparently takes until nightfall for the spirit to return to the cemetery, trailed by 3 goons, Bruno included. He's able to fight the 3 off for a bit, but then Pagel arrives, reveals how she's the boss, and then knocks him out with a tranquilizer dart. Kudos to the cinematography with laying him out in front of his own grave. I like it. She brings him to be tortured. Once again, nobody removing the mask because... I don't know, it'd be cheating or something, and demands to know where the copy of Will's manuscript is, apparently not putting 2 and 2 together about the old scholar. In his delirium, he mentions Ellen's name, and Pagel gets an idea. If we dress up one of the antiquities in a red dress and a blonde wig... No, naturally they kidnap Ellen and strap her into an Iron Maiden, threatening to kill her if the spirit doesn't talk. He admits the manuscript copy is a fake, and Pagel is happy to hear, since that means she can now blow them, the museum, and everyone inside it up to cover her tracks and escape. While the 2 work to get out, Ellen decides to be grouchy about all this and wonder why the spirit called her name. He denies having done it.
Pagel may be a thief and a forger and a murderer, but you wouldn't lie.
She literally has been lying this entire time to Teasdale, to you, and indeed used a lie to lure you into a spot where you could be taken. Ellen actually thinks it's pretty sweet and beautiful that he did so, though first and foremost, he manages to tear through the ropes on his arms.
Roll fizzle beef.
He puts a brace in the Iron Maiden to hold it off, since he needs to worry about stopping the bombs, lest they go off and kill hundreds, including children. He also stops to make sure he got his gloves. Hey, branding is important, people! If he stopped the bad guys using his regular fists, it's not the spirit doing it, it's Sweaty Shirtless Man, a completely different hero. While Ellen manages to free herself from the Iron Maiden, the spirit goes around knocking out the henchmen and disabling the bombs. As the lead goon, though, naturally Bruno puts up a better fight, and it even leads to a sword duel between the 2. They fall over into a giant cake for... whatever the occasion is here. Another fundraiser? I'm not sure. In any case, the cake is ruined, but the bombs are stopped. It wasn't about the bombs, she just realized that the cake is underbaked, and since the spirit ruined it, that doesn't matter now. The cops arrive at Pagel's place, but she escapes with her hunky butler Ricardo, no doubt to return in a future episode of this Had It Gone to series. In the wrap-up, the spirit explains that Interpol is helping retrieve the stolen works to be returned to the museum. And so our movie ends with the spirit walking Ellen home after showing off his tacky, redecorated crypt and teasing a will-they, won't-they relationship between the 2. This movie is... very confused. I wouldn't call it truly awful in the same way the Frank Miller film is, but it's also not that good. The movie does not seem to know what tone it's going for. There's certainly something of an Adam West satirical aspect to it, particularly in some of Denny Colt's mannerisms and style of speech, the complete failure of anyone to recognize him through the mask, the elaborate death traps, the humorous bits with Ellen, etc., but it never goes far enough in embracing the farcical side of it, instead at times feeling like a boilerplate 70s or 80s action mystery show, just with an unpowered superhero leading the charge in it. There are some good jokes in it, but the characters are fairly one-note, and at times the pacing is very rushed and trying to convey a lot to you in a short amount of time, though admittedly that may be a result of it being a pilot, whereas the series would go in a different direction. And of course, as I said earlier, the casting of Sam Jones as Denny Colt was a big mistake. He's not a terrible actor in this, but he doesn't have an everyman quality to him, and he possesses a very distinctive stature and voice that don't match the spirit, at times sounding a bit more like a meathead, while other times he feels like a proto-Patrick Warburton in his delivery. If he had played into that, a bit more over-the-top and tongue-in-cheek, it might have worked, though as it is, it just doesn't seem to know if it wants to be taken seriously or act as a parody. And even in terms of parody, it's not really parodying much, just being a bit goofy more than anything else. Still, I would not call it painful or awful, just not that good. Next time, aside from maybe another live show adapted into an episode, it's time to close out the original Star Wars trilogy with the comic adaptation of Return of the Jedi.
You better have a receipt for these.
That is the most British, like, I'm kind of naffed off at you. Arr.
Hello my friends, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell for notifications on new video releases. If you'd like to support future videos, you can check out my Patreon, buy merch from the store envy link in the description, or check out the t-shirts available from Teespring. Thanks for watching!